Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to my Beyond Astro K podcast. And yes, I'll be talking about generational planets. I was actually going to say podcast, but yeah, I'll be talking about generational planets. Now, I know I did say that, and it will be predominantly be about the generational planets like Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. But I will be throwing a little bit of Saturn here because I feel that Saturn is important. Saturn is our taskmaster. Saturn is we learn from Saturn. But I wanted to put this video up because as I'm speaking, Saturn is in Aries. And, if you look at my previous video that I've done on Saturn in Aries, if you can, guys, just check it out because I've got a lot of insightful information. We are going through a 30-year new chapter. This chapter started in 1996 all the way in the 90s, and it's now ended with Pisces, and we are now beginning in the 2020s. Not only do we have this Saturn in Aries, we have the we have the outer planets have changed, or they are changing. We have Pluto in Aquarius. We also are going to be having Uranus in Gemini, and it's going to be happening sometime this year anyway. And then we also have, at the moment, we have Neptune in Aries. Now, when I spoke about the Saturn in Aries video, I spoke about for all the signs, I asked you guys to go back in like 2011, the 2020, was it 2010 to 2012, because that's when Saturn was in Libra. But most importantly, you had to go back to 30 years ago when Saturn was in Aries. Now, the outer planets there were, you had Neptune and Uranus was in Capricorn. And then it moved into Aquarius. And then Uranus moved into, Neptune. Yes, Neptune was in Capricorn. Then it moved into Aquarius. And then you had Uranus, which was in Capricorn, moving to Aquarius. So, and I wholeheartedly believe this, and I said this before, whenever a planet transits or whenever a planet goes into, whenever a sign goes into a new planet, basically, the aspects to it carries through. I've always felt that, guys. It doesn't just go away afterwards. It actually stays for the next 30 years. So when we had Saturn going into Aries, the generational planets of Uranus and Neptune, they benefited some groups and didn't benefit others. The generations that came up, were coming up, or they were getting into their prime, was the Pluto Libra generation. So Saturn was opposing this generation, but it was also squaring this generation. And that lasted for 30 years, guys. It didn't just last then in the 90s. It lasted for 30 years. So even when Pluto went into Sagittarius and it sextiled this generation, they still, yes, you have some celebrities that came up, pop stars that came up and everything. There was still quite a harshness there. There was still like a lot of lessons they had to have because it squared their fourth house, which is the house of home, lineage, all of that, and the past and family and roots. So, when Saturn went into there, it opposed them, their Pluto, but also squared their Pluto too. So when I was looking back and doing like some of my research, I was wondering, how come this generation, they're a mixture of Gen X, especially like the early like 71, 72, but they're a mixture of Gen X, but they're also millennial as well, because Gen X is 1965 to 1979. Even though there's some people say it's 80, I believe, and a lot of people are saying it is 1979, because 1980 is a brand new decade. But yeah, and after then you had that it was the Gen X, but it also was the millennial. It was the Gen Y millennial. And I was wondering, how come this generation, even though they did get some gains, because let's be honest, when Pluto went into Sagittarius, they did get some gains. But there was also a bit of a roughness. There was also, I felt that there was a lot of lessons that this generation had to learn. And I'm, probably being biased here because I'm of that generation, Pluto Libra. But still, it was quite harsh, you know. So, looking back 30 years ago until now, yes, and also let's not forget when Pluto went into Sagittarius, it did conjunct their Neptune. So it was still good as well. But still, there was a harshness. And that harshness, let's just be honest, guys, especially if you're like a Gen X, Gen X, Y, millennial, slash millennial, look back and see how that transpired from 30 years ago to now. 30 years ago, it does actually seem like a very long time. But it feels like it feels like it was just like yesterday, So, yeah, I wanted to just put that out there, and, I don't know, just keep repeating what I said in the video. I probably will be, but, we're moving into a momentous time, guys. We're moving into a time of, it's a brand new beginning. It's a brand new Saturn cycle. And, I feel like there's a huge, as we already know, with Pluto being in Aquarius, the generational shift is real. We're actually seeing it in real time. We're seeing a lot of, I think that with Saturn being in Aries, because it is opposing Pluto in Libra, it is for like the Gen X, like even if we're going back to like the silent generation, 1928 to 1945, the silent generation Pluto, the Pluto in, I got my thing here, guys. I had to get it anyway. So yes, let's go. If we just go back to the generations, so we have the generations, and I'm going to be talking. It's going to be like a mixture of like Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So the silent generation, like I said before, was the 1928 to 1945. So they were like your grandparents or your great grandparents. And I have been lucky enough to actually see my great grandparent. He was Pluto in Gemini. A very different generation, but I was very lucky to meet him. My kids, their great granddad is still alive. He is of this generation, the silent generation. So this generation, they Pluto in Cancer. They also had, what did they have? They had Uranus in Taurus, which is actually, they're going for their Uranus return. Then obviously it went into Gemini. They had their Neptune in Virgo. So they're getting up. So while Saturn was in Pisces, yes, it trined their generation, but it also it sextiled their Uranus, but also it's squaring. They have it. A lot of them basically are having their Uranus return, whether it's in Taurus, and also it's in Gemini. And then it's opposing their Neptune. I don't know if any of you guys know about in conjunction. So that means just like when the signs have nothing in common. So even though this generation also has Neptune in Virgo, Saturn opposed their Neptune, but Neptune in Aries is in conjuncting them. So we're gonna see, I feel, for this generation, we are actually going to be seeing huge shifts because it's going to go into Gemini. A lot of them are going to have their Gemini return, their Uranus return, but also they're going to have this in conjunction with Aries being there. And you know, a lot of this generation, they're still alive and kicking, like my granddad. Some of them have passed, but a lot of this generation are alive and kicking. And I didn't, when I saw this, I didn't actually know. I thought that this generation didn't have, what was it? They didn't actually have the Pluto didn't last so long, but it's actually a very long generation. So, and I actually thought it finished in 1938. So obviously I'm going to have to definitely go back on that because that's what I put down. So it actually is, sorry, it is 1938, but some people say it's 1945. I don't know why they say that, but it is 1938. So guys, that was my mistake because I had to look at my notes, of course. So the Pluto in Cancer was actually 1914 to 1939. Okay, I was looking at the Uranus dates. Okay, so yes, so there this generation, I feel at the moment, because I'll be doing like deeper dives, and you know, because we got all day for these generational talks. And you know, as you guys know, I'm very excited about generations. You know, generations are my forte, they're my thing. So yes, so they I feel like, especially with because obviously a lot of this generation have a lot of different Saturns, but when we're talking about generational, you know, especially with Neptune, a lot of them have like Neptune in Virgo. This is like in conjuncting them, so there's going to be a bit of a you can say a bit of a craziness when it comes to like their, you know, because again, this generation, they have, you know, when they came up, they were here to start this pioneer, this revolution of, you know, the family business, the family get-togethers, that whole family structure. And a lot of it didn't go the way that it should. And we're seeing it being played out when the generations have passed on. But with their Neptune in Virgo being with the Neptune in Aries in conjuncting, you know, this is like an eighth house, and we're gonna see a lot of like our great grandparents or grandparents when it comes to like their finances, when it comes to their money, resources. A lot of it could be changing right now, or they may have to restructure it. They may have to look at it differently. Where, you know, especially if they're rich, if they're like billionaires out here, a lot of them are actually CEOs and billionaires of all these like big corporate governments, but also these corporate, like, this is a generation that started, you know, these home businesses, but they expanded it, and it went like, you know, like, how can I put it, like things like Marks and Spencer. That was like from, some of it was part of it from this generation, but they passed it on to their families, so they created generational wealth. So with Neptune in conjuncting their Virgo, with their Virgo being very meticulous, with their Neptune being very, when it came to like structure, being, you know, being diligent with their books, with critical thinking, with Neptune being there, it's gonna be like making you sort of like go back to the drawing board. There could be a lot of losses, should we say. So we may not even see a lot of these family businesses being here, because Aries is gonna be like, nope. We need to restructure things. We need to pioneer something new, something young. This is, a lot of it is old school, a lot of it is outdated. So in order for this Neptune generation to survive, it will be like, okay, I have to, you know, sort of cater to the young. I can't really cater to like my old rich friends anymore. The young are the future. you know, just like a little bit of an example. And especially with like a lot of them are going through like their Uranus return with Taurus. That's one of the reasons why they built generational wealth, because they got Uranus in Taurus. But we're moving into Gemini. A lot of this generation also, pioneered that whole, not just them, it was from their parents. We're going to see a lot of shifts happening when it comes to like media, especially Uranus being in Gemini. And this generation who has that, even like their way of thinking, the way they are, I feel that this can be a time that they're gonna sort of have to keep up with the times when it comes to media, because media is changing. Mass media is now run by the youth. It's not run by the old people, unfortunately, or the older generation. So it's gonna be like, I need to sort of keep up in order for my business to sustain an income. Also, like the thoughts and a lot of their mindsets going to be very different, be transformed, and a lot of this can be very fast. And obviously, as we know, like I said, I'll be doing a deeper dive on this with Pluto being in Cancer, Pluto being in Aquarius. This generation are once again going through this 8th house death transformation, money, resources, loans, debts. It's just a lot. And again, with Saturn being there, Saturn is squaring this generation too. So, we're going to see this generation. I think the oldest is like 100, and the youngest is like in their 80s. So, we're going to see a lot of, not 80s, probably, like late 80s going to their 90s. So we're going to see a lot of this generation going through a huge shift. It's going to be very uncomfortable, because they're used to seeing the world a certain way and working a certain way, and it's just not like that anymore. And especially with Neptune and Saturn being in Aries, they're gonna be pushing. It's gonna be pushing like a whole new change. We come to the boomers. My parents are boomers. I call this the spoilt generation. Yeah, because they are spoilt. They had a lot going for them. The boomers are, it's a mixture actually. It's a mixture because they're Pluto Leo, and they're also Pluto Virgo. So we've got the Pluto in Leo, which is 1939 to 1957. And then we got the Pluto Virgo, which is half boomer, 1957 to 1972. But like I said, a lot of them are half boomers. So we're going to go to the boomers now. And, Uranus moved from Gemini into Virgo. Okay, so these boomers who are, like I said, 1946 to 1964, with the two, Pluto generations, they're going to be squared. When Pluto goes into Virgo, they're going to be squared. And, the boomers, they're going to be feeling a lot like Pluto in like the previous generation before them. They're going to be feeling very uncomfortable with this shift. Not only Saturn, because they're half Pluto Leo. Saturn is trining them, yeah, but they're gonna be yeah. It's just, put it this way: Uranus moving from Gemini to Virgo is going to be a square. It's going to be a square to like their whole like livelihood, their social standing, the way the world sees them. And we're going to see like they're going to be like the fourth, it's going to be a 4th house and the 10th house square to like the home, their social status, marriages, and all of that's going to be happening. and it's going to be very fast, and it's going to be very, very unpredictable. Okay. Uranus also moved into, it moved into Virgo, and after then it moves into Leo. Okay, so Saturn will trine their Leo, and also Uranus will trine their Leo. Okay, but their Neptune's in Scorpio. Okay, because it went in and out of Libra, and then it went to Scorpio. So there's going to be some oppositions, some trines, but also some inconjunctions. Okay, and it's like I said, it's going to be very, very uncomfortable for them, especially when Neptune is, Neptune is opposing their Libra, but it's also in conjunction their Scorpio. So there's going to be a mixture of like, it's going to be a mixture of like how they are coming towards like their relationship, because Neptune going into Libra, because some of them have Neptune in Libra, it's like some of them might probably have visualized how their relationship should be, and with Neptune opposing their Libra, it's like, I've been with this person for so long, because my parents were married for 50 years or 60, 70 years. So I'm going to be doing the same. And when their Neptune now is now opposed by Aries, it's going to be more of a case of, do I actually want to be with this person? I haven't got, not, I've got like a couple more years left in me, because a lot of this generation are in their 60s, 70s. They're not in their 50s yet, they're in like their 60s, 70s. And it's like, I want the rest of my life to be like, some of you might decide, some of them may decide they want to be free. Some of them may decide, you know what, my life is not, my happiness is not going to be about someone else. It's going to be about how I feel. And some of this generation whose Neptune is in Libra, which is, like I said, getting opposed, is like, I need to be free. But also, some of them might decide they just want to date. Some of them might decide they just want to be alone. Because Neptune is like a veil when it comes to like relationships and love relationships and business and contracts. So some of them might see like, some of them may have signed certain contracts that were now found out to be bogus. And some of them might see, they may actually see their partner for real. The person that they've been with for the past 40, 50 years may not be that one. Or they may decide, I just want to date and I don't want to live with anyone because, the kids have grown up now. Or a lot of this generation are retired, or are retiring. Yeah, actually, a lot of them are retired or are retired or going to be retired. They're just like, I need to just do something for me, something that I love. I don't mind dating. But also the veil is going to be lifted off about just seeing beauty for beauty's sake. So Neptune and Aries is going to be very real for this generation. And, especially, again, with the square to Gemini, Uranus squaring their Gemini, Uranus squaring their Virgo, should I say, is like, a lot of them are seeing that when it comes to like their work and social standing changing. Gemini is a planet that's very fast. It's very like switchy. It doesn't stay still. So some of this generation may decide that they want to, or they may be forced to, because again, a lot of them are being retired or retiring, that, they want a different career, or they're being pushed to have a different career. There could be makeup and breakups in their relationship. There could be a lot of upheavals. Some of this generation have been working in jobs for years and decades, and some refuse to move, and some are being, once again shown the door because they can't sort of adapt to what the real world is, what's actually going on. I will speak about this. I'll be talking about it when I do the Virgo one. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot of upheaval when it comes to like their relationships, social standings, their jobs, their careers, them as bosses and CEOs. A lot going on there. But then also, like I said again, a lot of them, some of them also have Neptune in Aries. So this is about their daily habits, routines, and this veil, because some of them might be thinking, oh, I've been healthy, I've been this. But with Neptune being in Scorpio, it's very deep and dark, guys. It's very intense. It's very much like when it comes to love and passion, what they believe in. It's very much, this is how it is. And they will see now it was not that deep. And it could cause like quite catastrophic, I wouldn't say meltdowns, but like emotional upheavals. Because this generation also, they're very sensitive. I feel that some of them have poured a lot of their life, soul, and passion into certain themes or aspects. And with Neptune in conjuncting their Scorpio, Neptune in Aries in conjuncting, this is about the sixth house. This is about their daily habits, routines, their diet, their workout regimes. So again, this is going to be changing. This is like you need to start something from scratch, because what you did is no longer working. So what are you going to do about it? Or they'll be forced to, because remember, Aries is about starting from fresh. So some of them will see, you know what, how I was living is not, it's not working for me. I need to change up my diet, change up my routines. I need to, instead of me doing jogging 30 minutes, I have to walk. Instead of me eating like this, it could be like, if you're eating plant-based, I need to like start eating a bit of meat or fish, because the veil is now being lifted over. Some of this generation who are Neptune in Scorpio will just, okay, let me do it. I do what I need to do. I've been to the doctor and it's not working. But some may take a while. But Aries is going to be pushing that. Remember, Aries is a fire sign. And remember, Scorpio traditionally was also Mars. So, if that urge is there, you need to do it. So, yeah. But it's still like a bit of an upheaval. Because, like I said, this generation, they are Pluto, Leo, and Virgo. They are boomers. But we come to the Gen X, who are, where's my thing? The Gen X are like the Pluto Virgo, which we just talked a little bit about. But they're 1957 to 1972. And them being Gen X is 1965 to 1979. Now, their outer planets they have this, it's the start of Uranus in Virgo, and it ended with Scorpio. So with Uranus being going into Gemini, or even if in Taurus, it's trining them. With it going to Gemini, it's going to square them, this Gen X. Okay. And it's after then it ended in Scorpio, which I am, but I am millennial. But yeah, so with it squaring some of their their Virgo. Again, like I said, there's going to be lots of changes going on, and the changes are going to be very again, my favorite word again, it's like upheaval, but it's going to be very bam bam, because you've got Uranus, then you also got like Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. So it's going to be this swift change going on in their home life, their family, where they're living, but also their career. Okay. And when it goes into Scorpio, there's going to be this in conjunction as well, because some millennials are Uranus Scorpio, so that ends in 1981. So we'll be feeling that sort of like shift. Like we've gone through this Uranus opposition, and now we're going through this Uranus in conjunction, and this is going to be our 8th house. So there's going to be some changes when it comes to like finances, debts, loans. There's going to be a time to rebirth. There's going to be a time to change things. If you're getting money from this source or that source, it may not be available, or we're going to have to find a way to you know, balance our finances, whether it's for ourselves, but we're definitely with our joint finances. But I'm picking up money to be made, maybe because of Gemini, but there's gonna be again a lot of big changes coming up. But yes, so yes, so with also then we had Neptune. This Neptune is went from Scorpio, which I just spoke about, and it went into Sagittarius. So this is going to trine, the Neptune Aries is going to trine our Neptune in, you know, the Neptune in Sagittarius. And it's a beautiful trine. This is a time where a lot of this generation, and you know what, this generation is a very powerful time for this generation and the millennials. But I'll be talking about that later on. But yeah, we're going to the sorry, we're going to the Gen X. Okay, so this Gen X, they're seeing a lot of them again they got like the Pluto Scorpio, but a lot of them have the Uranus in Virgo square to Gemini. Also, they have the Neptune in Scorpio, which is this huge in conjunction, which is not favorable for them. Again, like I said, because this is to do with like their health, their wellness. This is about their daily habits and routines. And Aries being there is changing things. It's changing, especially their work life. And I'll speak about that. We've got Pluto as well in Virgo, which is in their sixth house. So I'll say for this generation, and I don't know if a lot of you know, like in America, you guys have The View, which has got Whoopi Goldberg, and I can't remember the other lady's name, but you know, because I know that they keep changing. Excuse me, but excuse me if I don't know all the ladies' names. It just actually slipped my mind. But you got The View there. But in this country, in UK, London, we have Loose Women, which is like a rip-off from, you know, they said it's been inspired by them, but it's, let's just be honest, copying slash rip-off. So what's happening is that a lot of and we also got like this other program, we got other programs in the London as well. We got like Good Morning Britain, we have This Morning, and then we have, yeah, we got those two, and we've also got another show called Lorraine, which is hosted by Lorraine Kelly. So I say this is because a lot of the women, a lot of them are women actually. They present are their Gen X, okay, so they're born like 19. Some of them are like, you know, boomers, but some of them are actually Gen X. Yeah, a lot of them are slash boomers slash Gen X. So you know what I was talking about, guys, where there's going to be a lot of like changes, upheavals when it comes to their jobs. Because a lot of this is jobs worth. A lot of this is to do with like their careers, guys, their livelihoods, money. A lot of it, there is some relationship aspects going on, but a lot of it is to do with like their, you know, livelihoods. And, you know, because they're a mixture of like Pluto, Leo, well, but let's just, yeah, a lot, because a lot of it is Pluto, a little bit of Leo, but Virgo, which is, they are very much about work. Like if they're not working, that's it for them. They like to work, they like to earn money. A lot of them have earned a lot of money. So what's happened this week is that with this, you know, boomer slash Gen X, is that ITV, one of the stations that we have here, they have like new people that are in charge. And I believe that I think that when I looked at the guys' faces, they actually look like they are millennial, Gen X slash millennial. They look like they're in their mid-40s. And, you know, guys, I've spoke about this already, that, you know, the Pluto Libra, even if they're Gen X, they're going to be in charge now. Okay. So there's, I think the name slipped my mind. I should actually know the name, but it slipped my mind. but he's actually slashed a lot of the programs. Like he slashed Lorraine, and also he slashed Loose Women. And this morning, and also Good Morning Britain, they're untouched. Now, Good Morning Britain is hosted by a lady called Susanna Reid. She is Gen X, and it's basically her show's untouched. Piers Morgan used to be in that show as well. He's also Gen X. But yeah, that's been untouched. And this morning is hosted by Pure Pluto Libra. But they're also Gen X too. Yeah, but they are what's happening with them is that, like, with Good Morning Britain, the lady who's hosting it, Susanna Reid, she is 1970, whereas this morning a lot of them are born like 1973, 1972, 73. But they are, they're all Gen X. But with this morning's presenters, they are heralding a new change that's happening. They are like the leaders. That's why they're untouched. So, yeah, so like I said, what's happening is that they've been untouched, but Lorraine show has been slashed to 30 minutes, and the Loose Women. And there's this mad, crazy upheaval. Oh my God. And, with me, I don't like to see anyone losing their jobs. Because, I think if we're all being honest, a lot of us have lost jobs, and when you lose jobs, it's less money for you. And Loose Women has been around since 1999. And I think Lorraine has been around since like the 90s too. So we're talking like when Saturn was in, basically when they came about, Saturn went for a new cycle. It was a mixture of Aries and Taurus. It was in a new cycle. So what's happened now is that, obviously we're hearing things from the press, the media, but, I think there's a lot of it is hearsay, but a lot of it I do believe as well. So I say that is to say that, what I just spoke out of Gen X, a lot of that generation, especially if they are Pluto Libra, especially if they're Pluto Virgo, there's, what I just said just now, there's going to be so much upheaval to their jobs, their relationships, their money. And what's also happening is that my generation, Pluto Libra, we are now going to be in charge. It doesn't matter if they're 70s, it's still Pluto Libra. They're going to be in charge. And what's happening is a lot of them are being in charge in their 40s, going on until the rest of their days. Okay? And, you're hearing like the Pluto Libra, Gen X, they're very, very unhappy. They're very unhappy because a lot of them are worried that the younger generation, i.e. Pluto Sagittarius, are now going to take everything, are now going to be, and it's not nice to hear, especially if you've put, a lot of them have put like years, decades into their work. But, if we're being honest, the TVs in this country are to be desired. The TV shows. That's why a lot of people in this country are streaming, because it's more diverse, it's more modern, it's more up to date, and the TVs in the UK, they are trying to update themselves. It's taken a long time, but Pluto is in this country's the sixth house, and it's in Pisces. So, that time is gonna come. But we have Venus in Aquarius. We also have Aquarius in the fifth house. So what's happening is that in this country, because Pluto's going to be conjuncting their Venus and their fifth house, it's about young people. Yeah, people. It's not about they're looking young. It's just people that are sort of like, yeah, it could be looking young, but it's just about we're going with a different thing now. The Gen X that heralds like the Pluto, the boomers, the boomers, the Pluto Leo and Pluto Virgo, what they're heralding, that was great then, But now things have changed. We need to go into the more Pluto, Libra, and Sagittarius, okay? Because they've been waiting in the background for a very long time, and now it's their time. But even you're hearing things, you're seeing things, you're reading things. You can see a lot of gritted teeth. You can see a lot of anger, and understandably, you know. But we're moving into a new time. So when I speak about this, what's happening with like Uranus, Neptune, and all that, I said it before, God, the planets don't lie. The planets don't lie. Okay? Especially if they're in conjuncting you. You know, remember this generation, they have like Uranus in Virgo. They also got Neptune in Scorpio. They got Pluto in Virgo. They're not helping that generation. What it's actually doing is seeing them, a lot of them, it's about stepping down. It's about letting the generation that has been waiting in the background take over. It's also about you seeing what else you can do or keep with the times. It's also seeing that you need to change your ways of working. You know, you were the CEO, now you have to work with the younger ones or the employees now. And it's not pretty, but it's just what the planets are saying. And with my generation, they're going to be changing things for years, decades. And it's not just because with Pluto being in Libra, it's when we have that other shift, because we're now in air era. Okay, we're in an era of air. We had that one in 2020 when Pluto, we had the Saturn, Jupiter, Neptune conjunction in Aquarius. The next one is going to be in Libra. Then it's going to be in Gemini. Then it's going to be in Gemini, and so on. It's going to be like for the next decades, even when we leave this earth to come. So, and also we have that Saturn, Neptune conjunction in Aries. Yes, it opposes this generation, but also the Neptune is in the 5th house for the next 36 years until they're in their 70s. So Pluto and Libra are not going anywhere. And nor are the Pluto in Sagittarius, guys. And I'm going off on one. I'm just letting you guys see that when the planets don't serve you, this is what happens. So we may see a lot of that generation, like the boomers / Gen X, because what they're saying as well is that a lot of them are talking about how it's woke, and woke is not about that. Woke is about being rich, being demonized for the color of your skin, and it's not about, you're getting like young people in. That's not what woke is about. Being awakened to, being, being awakened to things that are, you're trying to get on with life, and you're just being pushed down. You have to wake up to it. Woke is not about, getting young people in and making them say certain things and Black Lives Matter. No, that's not woke. That's not woke at all. Woke is very much, it's quite complex, but it's also not complex. It's being awakened to being dehumanized by society just because of the color of your skin, i.e. Black people, and unfortunately that generation are very much about that. They're very much about not letting out anyone else in. It's only, I'm helping my friends and this friend, and it's very much a generation that is about it's just not a generation that is, unfortunately, that they need to help the younger generation. Okay, so we're not even now getting back to basics. We're just moving with the times, and it's not easy for this country, because this country is a Saturn country. Is Sun in Capricorn in the 4th house, and I know the progress Sun is actually Leo, so it's going in that direction. But yeah, so yeah, there's a lot going on there. I've went off on one. You know me, guys. When I get deep into it, I go off. So yeah, so this generation, the Gen X, They're going through it. Okay. So then we move into the millennials, which is like part of the Gen X, but also this is proper millennial, 1980 to 1985. And then we're going to the Pluto Libra, which is 1971/72 to 84. So what Saturn is going to be doing for this generation, again, a lot of Saturn, a lot of them have like Saturn in Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, but Uranus, the outer planet Uranus, is in Scorpio. So like I just spoke about that already. You know, when it goes to Gemini, there's going to be a different energy. But a lot of them have Uranus in Gemini. I mean Sagittarius. So, you know, Uranus will oppose this generation. Uranus will oppose this generation. Comes to their relationships and their it will oppose their relationships, business and personal. There could definitely be some changes, upheavals. There could be mating, or dating, or just trying to be separate. There can be definitely realizations. Neptune, also of this generation, some of it was in Sagittarius, which I'm a part of, but it also moves into Capricorn. So Neptune being in Sagittarius, it's gonna trine them, so there's gonna be a lot of like love, romance, art, creativity. They're gonna be heralding that new change that is so desperately needed, guys, because there's so much stagnation going on. Nothing has changed, nothing has moved. So it's gonna trine that. So we, you know, look forward to seeing a lot more art, guys, a lot more diversity of art, and you know, different types of groups and people coming forth. Some of them also have Neptune in Capricorn, which squares them. So, and also some of this generation are Pluto Libra, Scorpio. So some of them do have the Capricorn influence. So with it squaring their fourth house, you know, I've spoken about Pluto Scorpio before. They're going to be getting the business, guys. It's just not going to be, it's going to be a lot of like emotional upheaval and turmoils. But, you know, my generation's already been through this and it wasn't pretty, a lot of it. But yeah, so with Neptune squaring their fourth house in Capricorn, you know, there's going to be a realization that, you know, all may have not been well within the family, like the structure, their background, lineage. They could be finding out things that they didn't know about themselves. And, you know, I feel a lot of them are going to be doing some deep research, deep dives into like their past, their family's past. Could definitely be to do with their mother. A lot of them could be moving, but still there can be a lot of like emotional turmoil going on too. Yes, so then we go to the Zoomers, which is the Gen Z, which is my niece and nephews. I love this generation. Yeah, I love this generation. Because yes. So yeah, and I think before I was gonna say so we move from Pluto to Libra, and also some of this generation are Pluto Sagittarius. So the Zoomers, the Gen Z, 1996 to 2008, which is the Pluto in Sagittarius. They are 1995 to 2008. There is going to be a lot of, excuse me, there's going to be a lot of so sorry about that, guy. There's something itching my throat. But anyway, yes, these Zoomers, Gen Z, they are the generation that are out there. As we can see, they're like the mouthpiece for my generation, but still. But this generation, when we talk about their outer planets, it moved. Some of them had Capricorn, but then it went to Aquarius. So Uranus in Aries, sorry, I was thinking Uranus in Aries, but so Uranus in Gemini will trine it was it will sort of like in conjunct their Capricorn when it comes to like their what was it, their actual daily routines and habits. That's going to be changed in a very sort of like unconventional way. And I think a lot of them will be forced to restructure how they're working. A lot of them actually are talking about how they're not into this 9 to 5. And I totally agree, actually. You shouldn't have to work so hard in order to earn your money. So they're the ones that are talking more loudly, especially on social media, about doing like this two, what was it, three, like two, what was it, 4 day a week, 3 day a week for full pay. They're the ones that are actually doing that. A lot of them are actually, because this is in conjunction their sixth house, a lot of them are, again, trying to work for themselves. Not easy time because, they've inherited they're like the recession generation as well. A lot of them are actually, trying to work for themselves, but they're actually trying to work smarter and not harder, but also making sure that they're getting that full time. And, they're standing on business when it comes to this. This generation, they ain't taking any crap. But also, some of this generation also have, Uranus and Aquarius. So this will trine their Uranus. It will be in their fifth house. So I feel that when it comes to like creative, they're going to be revolutionizing like creativity in the workplace, revolutionizing how they have kids, or creativity and all of that. And it's going to be so, even me speaking, I feel so excited about it. Obviously, this generation, they do have their cons, but a lot of the pros are like they're all about the future. So with, Uranus in Gemini trining the Aquarius, Uranus in Aquarius, it's going to be like sort of like revolutionized in such a way that no one saw coming. This generation are also going through like this third house action with Pluto being in their third house. So they're like taking over social media. they're they are doing that whole business and changing. They're like changing up the game with social media. This generation will also be doing like new apps. They'll be changing how we work out our body. They'll be changing up fitness. They'll be changing how we are doing business. But with, Uranus trining them, that's going to be all included too. They also have, because when some of this generation were actually born, there was, actually not when they were born, they were like teenagers, should I say. We also had, yeah, they got, what was it? They got Uranus in Aquarius, and some of them also have Uranus in Pisces as well. So Uranus will square their Pisces as well. So a lot of them could see some drama when it comes to home life, but also a lot of them are going to be changing where they live, how they live. It's not going to be, some of them are not going to be about this, 2.4 family lifestyle. They're going to be like, yeah, we can be together in that family structure. We might be separate, or it might be to do with like, I think a lot of them will be like actually speaking about their feelings within their home structure, not just glossing over it. There could be a lot of that, and also like even like when it comes to like create, I think a lot of them can make like their home life a bit more creative, a little bit more spiritual. But it won't come without its dramas as well, guys, because it has to be realistic too, and a lot of this generation, they're Pluto in Sagittarius, but some of them also are Pluto in Capricorn as well, which one of my daughters is Pluto Capricorn, but they are Gen Alpha. I'm not going to do Gen Alpha because they're still young, and a lot of the youngest of this generation, they are, some of them are are turning 2, and the oldest of this generation, they are like 15. So they're still babies, guys. So I'm not going to do them. I may touch upon them in the future, but I'm not going to be going too hard on them because, like, not too hard, but like a deeper dive because they're just very young. But yes, I would say that. So, also with this, once, like I said before, a lot of them have different Capricorns, a lot of them have different Saturns. So, you can put all of that in, but I think I just felt like I just needed to do this today because I just found it really, I've said this again and I'll continue to say the planets don't lie. When I spoke about that whole situation with like loose women and the Lorraine Kelly show, that's just like the beginning of what's going to be happening. The outer planet, especially when it's with Aries, Saturn in Aries, it's going to be, the change is going to be on a phenomenal scale, but also quite scary. And also, it can also be actually quite unpredictable. But change is here. Nevertheless, change is here. And, if I'm even like going back to the whole loose women, the Gen X drama with them, some of them losing their jobs, some of them not understanding that the world has changed and it's not just about them or like their friends, it's about other people, like the younger generation. This is gonna be like the new thing now, and I think it's really important that we just have to look at a lot of these things as an examples of not what to do, of how we can always move forward. I was hoovering today and I just thought to myself, the kids are the future. Whitney Houston never lied when she sung that, guys. The kids are the future. And I think that, however, whatever generation you are, if whatever you're creating or wanting to like put out there, because also feel that a lot of us who are about creating like a new life for ourselves, because essentially that's what Saturn in Aries is saying to us, that we do have to create a new life. We're moving from this victimhood or Saturn in Pisces of being like, oh, poor me, why me, or please look after me. We're moving away from that. We're moving now into an era, or a brand new era, a brand new beginning of, we need to, let's start fresh. Okay, the first thing is let's start fresh. What can we start new? What can I pioneer? But we also have to do it cautiously. We can't rush. And I do feel that a lot of us are wanting to do something now. Like, it's that sense of, if I don't do this, I need to do this now. Or if I don't do this, my life is over. That's not gonna happen, but I understand the urgency, because it does feel like there's a brand new urgency coming through. But what this is also showing, especially when it conjuncts the generational planet of Neptune, is that we need to also try and visualize the future, not necessarily live in it, but also just keep an eye on the future, because the present, the past is fine. We almost always look to the past. The present is fine too, but the future is key. And it's not going to be easy for all of us to navigate in the future, because, there's even certain things that I like to just keep, that I miss about the past. But we just need to understand that, there's new future things coming through, and there's also a new generation. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to do like generational. I speak a lot about generational planets, because there's always a generation that's dying out for a new generation to come through. And, not even my generation, even though I did say that we are the leaders, but the next generation, which is, Pluto Saggy, then you've got the Pluto Alpha, they're the ones that are pushing for that change. And I think with Saturn being in Aries, even though there's going to be a restriction on things, we are going to be seeing that future push through. And we all just have to keep an eye on it. You know, it's not a bad thing, and it's not like the best thing in life, but it's just to keep an eye. You know, because I feel that we are going to see a lot more of stories or of people being, you know, just stories about certain generations. Not what they used to have is no longer there. You know, and you know, even though we know with Saturn in Aries is like, you know, it's gonna it's a fiery energy. It's volatile. It's about war. It's about you know, war, police, and all the like military things. On another level, it's new beginnings, and not even Saturn can tamper that new beginning that's going to be happening. So yeah, that was like my sort of like 2 cents worth, guys. It's a mixture of like, you know, Saturn in Aries, but also with the generational aspects because it's very important. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast, guys. I will be doing a lot more podcast series on generational. I will be putting some Saturn in there, and I'll be putting up some stories because once again, stories are important. So once again, guys, thank you very much for listening. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye.